player. Hi everybody, thank you for joining me on today's episode of Glen's Retro Show. Today I'm going to talk about, well, these little guys right here. These are the Coleco Mini Arcades that were made back in the early 80s. Coleco actually manufactured quite a few of them. They started off with the Pac-Man. They also had a Miss Pac-Man, Galaxian, Frogger, Donkey Kong, and even a Zaxxon version. And these games were pretty nice back in the day. They had VFD displays for video fluorescent displays. Which were nice. They later went to LCDs for being cheaper and requiring less power. But the light up the screens were actually pretty nice. And these were nice as well, really nice case designs. Even today, people really like to collect these. Now, back when these were originally released, I didn't have any of them.
Your own mind.
I thought they were kind of neat, but they were $60, and I'd rather buy an Atari cartridge or an Intellivision cartridge or a ColecoVision cartridge back then, and have these little fixed displays that were in them. But in the past year or so, I've really gotten into these, and they're getting quite expensive nowadays. So I'm kind of got at the cusp. I've got some at a good price, some a little bit high. You can expect to pay anywhere between $50 to $100 depending on the condition and the model. Zaxxon and Galaxian and Miss Pac-Man probably being the ones that claim the most price, where the Frogger, the Pac-Man, and the Frogger, Pac-Man, and Donkey Kong probably don't claim the highest price, but again, depending on the condition, their decals and such. Now, there are a few people, I'll have links down below to people who make decals. A gentleman named Matthew on Facebook forums and on eBay sells some really nice labels if yours have gone bad. He has all different kinds of them. As a matter of fact, he actually just made the Pac-Man like this in all yellow. By request, it looks really, really nice. Just check out his work. But also, if you're subscribed to my channel, if not, please do so. But if you are subscribed to my channel, you'll probably already see that I do make my own. I modified a couple of different cases into Raspberry Pi machines. But I'm not the first person by a long shot to turn something like this into a classic arcade machine. Other people have done that long before I did. And there's one person in particular by the name of Neil Henry who runs a Facebook forum called Old Made New.
Where I live.
And what he does is some amazing things. He takes these old Coleco mini-cades and turns them into something fantastic. And he made one for me. And as of right now, there's the only one in existence. So I'm very kind of happy to have this. He made for me a ASTEROIDS Coleco Mini-cade. We're going to talk about this a little bit, and also I was able to get an interview with Neil Henry himself to talk a little bit about his projects and the other machines he's made. And you can see he does really nice work. We'll take a look at the ASTEROIDS here, and if I can get this in my other hand over here at the same time, I'm pretty sure he actually did use a Pac-Man case for mine. So you can see here the two different designs. And he does this himself. He takes machines that are not working, sometimes ones that people have working ones that send to him to get converted. But he does a really, really nice job. So let's have a first look at the world's first Coleco ASTEROIDS, and then we'll get into the interview with Neil Henry of the Old Make New forum. Come on, let's go get started.
And so it begins.
New to my channel, you may not know this yet, but I do make some of these conversions. I haven't done any yet in the Coleco case here, but I've done it in the Dream Gear 201 and 301, and I've also done it in the Basic Fun, Pac-Man, and Space Invaders. And I'm also working now on an Excalibur unit, which is similar to these. They were made in the 90s, but they're a little bit smaller. So I've been working with 2.4, 2.8, 4.3, and 5-inch screens, and I can tell you, the screen here is gorgeous, and it's very smooth. It's a similar screen I think I'm using in my Excalibur unit, but he just has it running really nice. I don't know if it's just because it's in this case or not. It just looks even better than the ones I've done. So kudos to him for that. I don't know how he does it, but the screen resolution looks really, really good. Again, I'm not sure if it's coming too well on this camera. I'm sure it's actually making it look not as nice as it is, but let me tell you something. That's a beautiful, beautiful display. Now, this particular one here is running a Raspberry Pi 3. So I'm sure that helps to the smoothness. The ones I've done so far have been in a Raspberry Pi 0, and I'm starting to work one in a Raspberry Pi 2. But regardless, I'm not here to talk about my stuff. I'm here to talk about this. So let's get this in the camera really nice, like so. And again, the screen looks really, really good. I mean, it's beautiful. And we have 2 buttons here. He tried to make the overlay. We talked about this back and forth. I think I was driving a little bit crazy on how to do the control panel here, but I think we both agree it came out pretty nice. He designed it all. Just had small little tweaks I wanted to do to it. And we have our fire button, thrust, and hyperspace buttons here. And in the original arcade, you had 5 buttons. You had the 2 buttons here. You had your hyperspace. Then you had your left and right buttons, which we did here. Now, this left and right are not independent buttons. They're actually tied to here. So you can use left and right on your joystick and use your buttons. But to play it the right way, you want left and right here and use these buttons like so. But when you play other games, because this is running RetroPie, there's a lot of games you can put on here. You can use the joystick and these buttons here. In addition to these 3 buttons, again, these 2 buttons are tied to the joysticks, left and right. But in addition to these 3 buttons, there are 2 more control buttons on the side over here. You can see he made a hole here for audio out on the unit. And underneath here, we have all the buttons here to make selections like start, coin, and so forth. To be honest, I haven't looked at his instructions to see which is which yet, so we're going to be finding out together. But let me see if I can get a better angle of the screen here. I mean, it just looks really, really good. See if I'm trying to get a reflection from the mirror. There we go. Stay in focus, you stupid camera. Let's see if we get it to get back in focus. No. You have to take my word for it. That screen looks fantastic. And he did a nice job with the side artwork here. And let's go to the back of the machine. You can see we have a power indicator light. He's got a charging light, battery full light, and that blue one is the main power. On this one here, I got an original door, and under here is where the battery is. This is running a lithium polymer battery. And if we can get underneath a little bit better here, we have a USB port here, so we can plug in, say, a USB dongle or a keyboard or even a hub. Continue that along. The power jack, and then there is a volume control button you can see with that little knob over there. And there's really nothing to see on this side here. Now, underneath, another thing I had him add, under here, he put in for me a micro SD card extender. So if I ever wanted to change out the image or do anything funky to the build, or if I screw it up and need to restore it, it's very easy to get to the SD card in here. I'm hoping that's something he'll offer on his other builds, because I think it's really worth having that ability. Because when everything's built inside these Coleco Mini-Cades, the only way to get inside is to get under the control panel here and here, which means you got to destroy or bend your overlay. And there's really no need to get in here if you have an SD card accessible underneath. And even when I got this here, I found out that you can remove the bezel here for dust cleaning. And I'm going to say again, I'm sure I said it before, because I don't know how well this camera is really capturing the video of the screen, but the screen is absolutely gorgeous. And again, I believe I use the same screens he's using here in my builds, but for some reason it just looks better. Maybe it's the angle. I don't know, but it really looks good. So I'm going to try and start this up. Again, I didn't look at the instructions yet to know which buttons do what, so let me see if I can figure this out by just pressing them. Let's see what happens here. Oh, I got a coin. So let's see if we can press start. And it looks like I got start. I'm going to turn the volume's a little bit low. At least if I can turn the volume up. Okay, I lost the ship in getting volume up, but it was worth it. So first I'm going to try with the joystick and see how that works. We have the fire button, thrust, and hyperspace. You can see the joystick does work. Thrust works. Actually doesn't play too bad with a joystick, but it's not the way it should be played. So I'm going to play it now with the two buttons here. Yeah, it's not easy playing these games looking through a camera viewfinder, so I apologize for that. This is actually probably one of my best games I played as a kid. I used to turn the arcade machine over a number of times till the guy kicked me out because no one else was able to play the machine. So not too shabby. We can put our name in here, so I'm going to do that real quick. So where's my hyperspace? There we go. So one of these buttons will get us to back up to the main menu here. Let me see, is it this one? Or is that pause? It might be pause. There we go. And now we're back into emulation station itself. So the very last button. So the first button here is your coin. Second one, just start. So you can look in here. We have our coin, start, pause, and this gets us back to the emulation station. And you can see we have some Atari 2600, Commodore. You can look at both these buttons here. So I'm going to use this button here. Daphne installed. Game Boy. Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Color. MAME. Lots of MAME. Neo Geo. Nintendo. And other ports. PSP. And the RetroPie itself. Super Nintendo. Vectrex. That's all of them. Let's go take a look at MAME and see what we have in here. Okay, so actually we have here, these are the VFD games. So these are like the little Coleco Mini-Cade games installed here. So it's basically running this in itself. So you know what, let's try running Miss Pac-Man. Let's see what that looks like. So if you guys can see it, I'm going to try and hold this up to get you guys see a little bit better. Let's see if we can start it up. Let's see which buttons are going to do it. There we go. I think that's much better. So, look, we're playing Miss Pac-Man VFD on a Raspberry Pi. And the controls work really well. And you want to get done with the game, press that button. Out we go. And let's take a look at some actual MAME games here. Let's put a coin in. So the joystick works really, really well. Oh, I got the little evil Otto coming towards me. Actually, the joystick is really, really responsive. So you can see he put a lot of effort and thought into the machine itself and how it works, and the front end that works as well. Put a coin in, start the game. That's if I hit something. Now the good thing about this, you could connect a mouse or a USB trackball and play this the way it was supposed to be played, instead of with a joystick. Let's see what else we can run here. Again, the joystick is very responsive. Oh, jumped way too early in that. That was my bad. And again, the two buttons here will work with any game, like Space Invaders, Galaxian, just like Asteroids. Okay, let's have one last look of this Coleco Mini Arcade that Neil created. You can see the screen is really crisp, the decals are shiny, and they pop really well. You would think this is something Coleco created back in the 1980s. To me, this is almost a piece of art. Now, if you look at the back of the unit, there's a volume control knob, a 5-volt power jack, and a full USB port. You can even put a hub on that if you needed to. Your main power indicator light, a charging indicator light, and a battery full indicator light, so you know the status of your batteries. On the right hand side, you can see there's 2 additional buttons for a total of 5, which would be more than adequate for any game you wanted to play on here. Also, the speaker grill is on the right hand side, so you get nice, crisp, and clean sound. I have to say I'm very impressed with the work that Neil done here with this Asteroids Mini Arcade. I'm very proud to have it in my collection, and I'm sure if you pick one for yourself, whether it be Asteroids or Donkey Kong or whatever, you'll be very happy with it as well. Without any further ado, let's start our interview with Neil Henry of the Old Made New Forum. First of all, Neil, thank you for coming on Glen's Retro Show. So, thanks for the time. And I see you got your cool guys in the background there.
Well, yeah, this is probably the best corner in my man cave that I get good light, so.
And just so I noticed, too, I see you got your Tron Arcade. Is that it over there? Is that your big new boy?
That's my new thing.
That's real nice. So, again,
I recommend it. I recommend it wholeheartedly.
I played it a lot as a kid, and it's one of those machines that, they were fantastic for the time, but they're expensive. I mean, kudos to you for getting one, but they've gotten so expensive. They all have. I mean, I have a Zaxxon I got back in, I want to say, 89. I paid $600 for it back then, and it still cost me $600 back then. So, and that looks like it's in good shape. Did you have to do anything to it, or it's already...
It was turkey. I got it at Johnny's Jukes in Vancouver. They sell a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I saw it online, and I said, well, let's go for it. I mean, it's kind of a funny story, actually. I went to a fair, and of course, of all fairs, they have arcades, and I kind of took the route through the arcade, and what do I see? I see a Tron sitting there, and I've always liked the Tron. It was a little bit lonely and a little bit beat up, so I go, I'm going to go talk to the guy here and see if he maybe wants to sell it. So I go to the guy at the front, and I go, hey, a Tron over there. And he's like, yeah, let me guess you want to buy it. I'm like, well, yeah. He goes, hang on a second. He brings this list out, and this is like 10 people long. I'm like, forget about it. 10 people wanted to buy it before me, so I don't think I was going to get that one. So I was on the lookout for it, and one popped up, and I don't know, man. It's the rest is history. I flopped the money down, picked it up.
And how much does the sucker weigh?
Well, how much did it weigh?
Did it weigh? I mean, I think you said it was like 500 pounds or something like that?
Oh, it's heavy. At least 500. I had my friend helping me, and did not believe it. Luckily, we're going downstairs.
Did you make sure to take out all the quarters first? You had to take all the quarters out first before you moved it.
I checked for quarters. There's nothing in there.
For anyone just tuning in right now, Neil Henry actually runs, as far as I know, 2 Facebook forums. He has the Old Made New forum, and on that forum he basically modifies old Coleco handhelds from the 1980s, and he turned them into something new. You may remember like Donkey Kong, Frogger, Galaxian, to name a few of these old Coleco Mini-Cades. And they were pretty popular back in the day. I personally never got one back then. I kind of was too much into my Atari at the time. But when I ran across his Facebook group, I saw some of the fantastic work he was doing converting these into basically the big arcade machine, the little one. And I had haunted him for a little while, and I got put on one of his lists. He has a list where he does regular builds like Donkey Kong to a new version of Donkey Kong, but also some custom builds. But Neil's even gone beyond that as well. He makes what's called a Game Boy Zero, which if you don't know what that is, they modify Game Boys with a Raspberry Pi. So instead of just playing Game Boy games, you could play a whole slew of different games. So I was talking to him for a while, driving Neil, I think, a little crazy. But I bit the bullet, and I'm very glad I did. And Neil actually made for me the very first Coleco Asteroids. And
That's the only one. It's the only one so far.
it's the only one in existence so far, and it's a beautiful piece of hardware. I mean, if you can see that, I'll get a better shot of it later, too. The craftsmanship that goes into it. Now, anyone who knows my channel knows I do kind of build my own as well, and I got to take my hat off to Neil because the ones I build, they're not easy. I mean, people look at these things and not realize that they're very difficult. And Neil kind of, I don't want to say you mass produce them, but there could be you take a week off and you bang 3 or 4 different kinds. So I guess my first question to you after all this is, what first got you into taking these toys and bringing them into the new modern age with these new Raspberry Pis?
Okay, well, the first thing that got me interested in it is it was just that I had some friends over, and you know, I was talking to my friend, and we were talking about different things, and he just goes, "Hey, have you heard about the Raspberry Pi?" I'm like, "No, I have no idea what that is." He goes, "Well, it's a little computer, and it's about the size of a credit card, and you can run Linux and all that kind of stuff." I'm like, "Okay, well, that's kind of cool." And he goes, "Hey, check this video out." And it was a video of
Was that the Relic? Was that the Relic machine?
Craig's little Pac-Man he did.
And I'm not going to sit here and play for a long time because I know that's boring. But I just want to kind of show you guys that it does work.
I looked at that and I go, "Oh my god, that is amazing! I got to do that." So so really he's the one that got me into it. His video, because it was I had never seen that before. No one had seen that before. I think he might have been the first for all that matter. So I did some research, and I had this backup camera thing that's incorporated into the rear view mirror, and I had it installed in my truck, and it, you know, it just didn't work very well, so I yanked it out and threw it in my drawer and kind of forgot about it. And then I had this little thing you plug into your TV that has Pac-Man and all that stuff on it. I go, well, let me just see what's inside this mirror. I took it apart, and it was a 4.3 inch screen. But it was composite, so it was easy to plug it in. Plugged it into this ready-made thing you plug into your TV, and gave me an image. I go, you know what? This is so small. I bet you I can do what Craig did and put it into an old Pac-Man, which I had. So I ripped apart the Pac-Man I had, plugged everything in, got a Raspberry Pi, got that working, which was impossible because there wasn't really much resources on the internet at that time. But eventually I got it going. And, you know, after that, okay, I got to think of a way of controlling this guy, controlling the Pac-Man. So I made a joystick, and okay, well, how am I going to power this thing? And I didn't know anything about, well, I knew a little bit about it, but how to power it efficiently. So I ran it on 12 volts out of my drill, the battery from my drill. And, well, anyway, to make a long story short, it was thrown together, and I have a video on YouTube about it. It's a black one, and the decals aren't so great. But it was something I made, and I was super proud of it. So then I made another one. It's here, right here, actually. The Robotron.
Yeah, I saw that.
I really like
Start.
Robotron.
And you can play away. When you finish with that, you exit out.
Yep, you have the two
And,
sticks on there. It's really cool.
I wanted Robotron, so I had an old, that's a Turtles game, and it was working. I took it apart, and I know it wasn't dead or anything. But
I'll scratch the audio on that one. They go crazy when you ruin a working machine.
I
They go nuts.
know. But anyhow, I did the same thing. I put the screen horizontal because it could fit in there horizontal. I got the two joysticks going, and yeah, made it. Second one made it better. So then I had this little Pac-Man sitting around. Well, I don't really play with this because I play with this one the most. So and I've always been following the Colecos. I like how they had those prototypes that never were released. And I go, well, you know what? I think I'll make this into the Donkey Kong Jr. I'll paint it orange, and I'll get some crude decals going from what I can find on the internet. And I made it into a Donkey Kong Jr. And again, I go, well, you know, let me just see if I can sell this on eBay. And my wife's like, you're not going to sell that on eBay. I go, well, let me just see. So I throw it on there, and zero activity on it. But the last maybe 30 minutes, it kind of went a little crazy, and it sold over $1,000.
How long ago was that one?
That was a couple years ago. I think that was, I'm going to say 2014, but it might be 15. Yeah, I was like, well, I'm going to make another one. So I made another one, sold that on eBay. And that one sold, not for $1,000, but it was definitely worth my while. And I kept making more and more and more. But it was only the people that would kind of stumble across it on eBay.
Right.
Thinking, okay, this is cool, I'll buy this, and there wasn't much, people to know about it. And I took a couple of pictures of it and put it on my Facebook profile for my friends to see. And some liked it, but most are like, can't be bothered. So that's when I started Old Mate New. I think, well, I'm going to start this group for like-minded people that, just like me, who had Colecos, who had Entexes in the past, and kind of had the fantasy of, putting an arcade in one of those things and actually making it work.
Well, it really was. And that was the thing back in the day. Kids today don't got to get that. But when we were kids, you had Atari and television, Odyssey. The graphics weren't there. And the arcades, you really wanted them at home. And it was a dream.
What kid didn't talk about that? What kid didn't talk about, hey, wouldn't it be great if we can put those actual games in these things? Now we have the technology to do that. And I started Old Mate New, and it gradually grew to what it is now. And I can display my games. You can display your work. A lot of people can display theirs on it, and it's just one giant community. So I think I'm so happy how it grew. I'm super happy, and I've talked to some great people on it. And so thank you out there, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, I think in your forum,
participating.
In the forums, everyone there is very very positive, and they get very excited. Like I said, some of the builds he makes are amazing. Now he mentioned like controls. When I do my builds, for the most part, I use whatever's available already in the machine. I kind of hack into what's there. But you actually make the joysticks. You take micro switches and you actually build a joystick. You don't use like the original Coleco hardware. But something you really did that was amazing, that blows me away even until now, is your Qbert.
Oh, the Qbert. Yeah, that's crazy Qbert. It's insane. It's insane.
And here we go. I'm not going to play very much of it, but just to give you an idea, I'm going to the corners.
I had to do it. I wanted to see if it was possible, and it was.
And it was. Now, he does have a video on his YouTube channel of pretty much how this works. But for people who don't know, unlike your Donkey Kong or your Pac-Man or any other game that have 4 or 8-way directions, Qbert was an isometric style game. So the joystick only worked in angles, like an X. So using a regular joystick, it's almost impossible. He'll fly off in the wrong directions. But Neil had to make it so not only could you play Qbert with the controls like this, but people also want to play other games like Donkey Kong. When you buy your games, it's more than just that game on it. Like mine is more than just Asteroids. It's Asteroids and a whole slew of other games. Because it's basically a Raspberry Pi. So Neil actually designed, which blows me away, he designed a way to press a switch on the back of the Qbert to rotate your switch so it locks into the Qbert mode. And then you can go back to no mode. Come up with something like that?
Well, I guess for what I do for a living, for 25 years I've been installing and repairing printers and copiers and stuff like that, and those things are mechanical monsters. So I suppose because I'm so familiar with that sort of I don't even know what the mechanical properties of those things, I've seen how they ingeniously, make this guide go this way while the paper kind of goes up that way, and staples and robots kind of grab a stack of paper and, puts glue on it and it extends out as a booklet. I go, wow, that's pretty cool stuff. And I guess after 25 years, I suppose I've gained some technical knowledge of how things could go together. So I put it to use in the Qbert game. I wanted something that I didn't want to add another joystick that goes up, down, left, right, and then have the Qbert one on the side. I kind of wanted it all in one. So I go, well, I'm going to make a little interlock kind of thing, reminiscent of what you find in print. And I got to say, it works like a hot damn. I think I've only made 2 of those. It's a big process, but yeah, it worked better than I thought it would.
Yeah, the end result from what I saw was really amazing. That the whole thing worked. I'll put some clips of those things in the video so people will see that as well. So I know obviously you've made Donkey Kong, you've made Pac-Mans, you've made Galaxian, Frogger, Qbert we talked about. What other builds have you done? I know you made like my Asteroids, and I think you made a Nibbler recently.
Nibbler, yeah, that was a good one, yeah. And Centipede, TEMPEST, Robotron in the Coleco version, which is interesting because it takes the screen horizontally and they barely fit. It takes a little bit of cutting here and there, but the horizontal screened Coleco is, some of those games in that would be Asteroids.
Right.
Yours is horizontal, and Omega Race, which is another one of the prototypes that never were released. Yeah, I got a whole slew of them. Yeah, and I like doing it. In the start, it was the hardest part, believe it or not, was making those decals, because I have no idea on how to work those desktop publishing programs.
Well, I can tell you, you've done a nice job from all the ones I've seen. In your early one, you said it wasn't that great. Still look very good. I mean, mine looks, again, if you look at these, we were going back and forth for, I think, a few days on even just the control panel. You're tweaking it, and that thing that looks absolutely fantastic. And the side decal artwork looks great. Just painted. They're really nice little devices. Now, you also build with different options. I mean, people go to the Old Made New website. People always say, "I want that. How much? How much?" If you go to the Old Made New website, there's a files location up at the top. We can download basically a work order form, and you basically can say if you want a Raspberry Pi 0, it comes with this. You can get a 2. Mine actually has a Raspberry Pi 3. In mine, because I'm nuts. I had to have the top on it.
It's a very popular option.
It is, and he has both composite screens, which actually still look very good. The composites do look very nice, but he does have the option of a HDMI display. And actually on my builds, Neil helped me a couple of times, as few as other people as well, because I was having some difficulty with the screen resolution, but they work really fantastic as well. Now, Neil also has another website, which I think you had to start. Within the past year...
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah, within the past year, Basic Fun released Pac-Man and Space Invaders, which were little LCD arcade units, and then 3 and 4, which was Centipede and Qbert, which are very nice. But it was...
here, actually.
Yep, and they were so flooding Old Made New that Neil also started a second group to talk about those products. But the primary focus for Old Made New is these Colecos. Now, within the past, I would say, I don't know, 5 or 6 months, they've had 3D printed files of the cases. Do you think this will help you? If you have a 3D printer, will you be getting into 3D printing cases, or will you still be staying with modifying damaged, broken Colecos to continue the process along?
I'm going to stick with the original casing. I've seen the 3D printed plastic that comes out, and I don't think it's quite there yet. It looks rough. It looks unfinished. You've seen the games that I make. I make them to as close to 100% as possible, and they're expensive, and I know they're expensive. So I want the buyer to know that these things are as highest quality as possible. I feel that if I use a 3D printed case, we're not going to get that. And with a 3D printed case, yes, they print out and it'll be a little bit cheaper, but it's still going to cost the same to build it. And I won't feel right charging what I charge for a Coleco build with the crappy quality that comes out of a 3D printed printer.
Now, there's also been rumblings for a number of years about Coleco possibly bringing these back. Now, there's going to be a Coleco show down in New Jersey. Yeah, but I'm going to be going to that. I know Willie also will be going from Arcade USA. So I'm hoping they're going to make some kind of announcement where this will make it easier for you. Because I can tell you for sure, as you've seen from my collection, these things are not cheap. I have a whole slew of these. And what Neil's saying is right. These are not cheap. When he does a build, some people might say, oh, that's expensive. But you have to realize these cases alone, to even get a broken one, they're not cheap. And then I can attest for him as well that the build process, the wiring, the soldering, the OS build of the Raspberry Pi takes a lot of time. For me right now, like I said, I don't know how you do it. It could take me a week to 2 weeks to build one, and I'm lost my hair in the process of doing it. But you seem to have gotten down a pretty good pattern. We could build quite a few during the week, or at least 2 or 3 at least during the week.
Yeah. If I'm not sitting I can build I can probably build one a day. It takes a lot of work, and you know, I'm a dad. I got a new puppy. I got other obligations. So building one in a day is kind of would be rare. It would be hard for me to do. But if I had a good, say, 10 hours, boom, 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 you know, no painting required, no decals to be put on, yeah, day easy. I've done so many of them. I've done way over 100.
That
So
many? You've got that many under your hat?
Oh yeah, easily over 100. And you know, in the process, you know, you learn to, you know, take shortcuts. You know, you save a lot of time. You know, just what normally would take me. Well, let's take a joystick for example. Joysticks used to take a good couple hours because I was meticulous and I wanted the wires to go just right. But then I realized, well, hang on, if I just, you know, say solder them on the backside and not have to run them through the little traces, I can probably shave off another 30, 40 minutes. And that's what I do. And the pivoting mechanism on those joysticks, again, I used to have to find just the right thing to have that pivot nicely. But then, you know, I did some experimentation and I found, okay, this particular thing works perfectly for that. So again, I saved some money, some time there. And money, I suppose, because time is money also. And mounting the behind side of the machine. I mean, there's so many things that that you learn over 100 machine makes where you can reduce the time and make it more efficient.
Well, definitely so. As you do a few builds, you definitely find new paths to make things simpler and easier. I've done the same thing as well. So it's always a learning process.
Yeah. And another thing is templates. You make templates.
Right.
You want to drill a hole, you have a template where you want to drill out a hole. I don't want to have to measure it every single time I want to drill a hole for a side button. I put a template on there, mark it with a Sharpie, drill, done.
And make sure that drill goes in straight and doesn't buck to a side or anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the other hard part I know for sure are these little guys. People can say, you know, these little buttons. Neil and myself, we get these things from, you know, China. And that's probably the longest, biggest holdup on a build is trying to get little parts like this. It seems like a small, trivial thing. They're not expensive, but you got to wait for the boat from China to come to bring you the parts.
And it seems there's only one supplier of those now, it seems.
Right. You're absolutely
and
right.
I happened to need mine right when Chinese New Year came around, and I was waiting for months. So, yeah, I feel your pain. I do. It's happened before, and I don't know why I just don't order hundreds of them. I just don't know. I order like 20 at a time, and that's never enough. So, yeah, you learn. You learn by doing.
So out of all the ones you've built to date, and I know my asteroids is going to be the answer, but out of all the ones to date, what was your favorite build? Was it your very first Pac-Man? Was it a different build? Which is the one that you personally like the most?
You know, I like the Donkey Kong Jr. I like the orange. It's so vibrant. There's lots of contrast in those decals. It looks fantastic. I love the look of it. But I can't just decide on one. Something the Centipede, for example, the Centipede with the
trackball.
The trackball. That's great. But then what? Tempest is such a cool game. I like the Qbert and Tempest. So I just can't choose one. But if I can say one more than the other, it's got to be Donkey Kong Jr.
And just so people know, he's got a Donkey Kong Jr. in the background there. That's the one that Coleco actually, I think, purchased from Nintendo and released.
Oh,
they didn't release the one that they showed in the catalogs. I had a Sears catalog back in the day, and it was Donkey Kong Jr. in like the Pac-Man style case, but I think would have been nicer personally, which is the one that you're talking about that you build now. You take that prototype, they never made it to production, and selling it. So I guess my question after that is, what has been the most popular one that people have been buying from you? What's the one that sells the most? Is it the Donkey Kong? Is it a Pac-Man? Is it Miss Pac-Man? What sells the most?
I would say I've made probably, not by much, but Donkey Kong is probably the most popular.
And that one probably comes in as I won't say the most inexpensive, probably one of the lower expensive ones. Let's start putting Raspberry Pi 3s in the high-end displays. They go with the Raspberry Pi Zero and the regular screen. It's really not too bad, and probably easy enough for you to send off to the newest person.
Oh yeah. And it's I mean, out of all the ones that they did release, that's my favorite. I don't know. I like the decals. I like the color of it. I think a lot of people do as well. And there's a lot of them out there. A lot of people send them to me, they donate them to me to say, okay, do your thing with that. And I do my thing, and I send them back home.
And I'll make a note of that as well, that you just said that. If you do have some of the components, Neil has no problem with deducting a price off of your sheet. So if you happen to have a case, he deducts for that. If you want to send him a Raspberry Pi to go into your build, you deduct from that. So he's flexible when he does. He's not saying, no, I have to use my stuff and that's it. If you have something you could donate for your project, he's happy to work with you on it, which is also kind of neat. Because this really, people have to remember too, this is not a job. This is a passion project that you're doing, something you just enjoy, and you like seeing like people like me light up when you get the thing and you open it and you see that little beautiful thing sitting in there. I mean, it's again something nostalgic from when we were kids that we wish we could have had. So I give you.
It's funny when you say that, because when I do order certain cases online on eBay, an example, and it comes to the door, and I kind of know what it is, but I open it up, I always get giddy anyways, because I know, all right, it's I don't know, it's just like Christmas. I open it up and you know, it's going to be turned into something else. It's going to be gutted, but I still have that giddiness feeling of you know,
something old, something new.
Exactly, yeah. And if I may add something on the same note of donations, a lot of these are functioning. They're operational when I get them, and I know some people. I mean, I don't like doing that. I don't like taking apart games that still work. You know, I can only say that I'm repurposing them so far. But I do hold on to those boards, and I have in the past, free of charge. I mean, minus, you know, like you got to pay for shipping and stuff. But I've actually sent some boards out to people that had broken ones, and you know, I want to contribute that way, so I can keep one from the landfill and make it work again. So I am doing what I can to keep the population going.
And that's good. So,
what I make.
and that's very good. If you have something like that, and I know you've done it to me once. You sent me a board for shipping, and that helped me out on a project I was working on. So at least, like you're saying, it's not just being destroyed for no reason. Someone may have a dead machine that you were able to help save that one and still make a game.
Yeah. I put a shout out on the forum. I don't know how long ago, 5 months ago or so, saying, "Hey, I got some free boards here. Who wants them?" And I think I sent out like 10 of them. 10 or 11 of them. So, yeah, so think of it that way. You know, there's 10 or 11 machines out there that didn't have to be thrown away.
So you're saying right now, out of all your builds, I know you've made your own joysticks, you've done a trackball, which I'm working on a project myself right now, my Missile Command Crazy Climber unit.
Nice.
Waiting for parts again from China. But my hardest thing I have not even gotten close to, what you said was difficult, was the decos. So would you still say, as far as your projects go, that the decos are the hardest part of your project, or you've gotten better at it now?
Well, I can say it's the more fun part now, because I'm learning how to use the program I'm using. And before it was such a chore, but now it's the kind of thing I can kind of do up at the kitchen table. My daughter's watching TV, my wife's doing something over there, and I can be at the computer doing this deckling, or taking my laptop to a coffee shop, and it's just making a decal, trying to anyways in an hour. So it's more fun now, but it's the finished product that makes it worth it. When I finally get a decal to what I like, and I stick it on a machine and I paint it just up nicely, and just looking at the new theme that I've made, it's well worth the effort.
And I agree. I've seen a lot of them again on your forum there, and it's just amazing when you see something. That was a Pac-Man before, and now it's a Nibbler, or it was a old Donkey Kong before with the old VFD screen, and now not only can you play the real Donkey Kong, but you can actually play an emulated VFD on it as well. So it's just kind of neat to be able to bring that all around.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Although I feel kind of funny sending the games out, although I don't, some of them anyways, with those VFDs in there, because it's I don't want to take away from any sort of sales that that Coleco might want to bring out. I don't know if they're going to be bringing out the Donkey Kongs again. I don't want to compete with Coleco.
Right.
I love them. I don't want to have anything negative towards them at all.
Right.
If I'm going to be hurting sales, I don't want to do that. So I got to be careful in that regards too.
Right, and if you don't, they could always look at Glen's Retro Show for some steps on how to add VFD games to it. Link down below. Just
And I used your guide to get mine working, so thank you. And George helped me too. So.
Yeah, George is a great guy. He helped me out as well, also with the HDMI screen. So I guess before we close out, is there anything else you have any secret projects you're working on? I know you're working on, the latest one you just did was the Game Gear.
Oh yeah.
You converted to Game Gear. So is there anything else you're kind of got in the works you can talk about, or anything else you just would like to do but haven't had time to even consider doing it yet?
No, not yet. No, I got quite the backlog to get through before I can start experimenting with other things. It doesn't mean I'm not going to bring out any more themes. I will occasionally, but no, right now it's probably primarily Coleco's, with the occasional Game Boy, and maybe one or two more Game Gears. I haven't decided about the Game Gears yet. They are a little bit more difficult to make, and I just don't have the time. I got a lot of people to build games for, and I'm getting to them as fast as I can.
Well, I definitely thank you for taking some time for my show today to sit down with me just to talk for a few minutes. I really appreciate it.
I'm happy to do it.
Neil, thank you very much for coming on to the show. And everyone, please do go on Facebook, and you can look up the Old Made New forum. I'll put a link down below to it as well. And you can see all of Neil's work he's doing. And if you want to get one, you'll be able to contact him right on his forum to get on his list. Neil, thank you very much.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
In closing, I have to say I've known Neil maybe about a year. I didn't know him personally. I met him on his forum, Old Made New. But in staying on his forum for a while, getting to know him, I have to say he's a really genuine person. And now in purchasing one of his Coleco mini-cades, I have to say he really does a nice job. I would recommend anyone to at least on Facebook have a look at the Old Made New forum. Just have a look at some of the works that Neil does, and some other people are making some machines there too, myself included. And I think you'll find really interesting things. And if you do want to get one of his mini-cades, again, right on the top of his page, there's a file area. We can download a document which will give you the pricing of the mini-cades he builds. And I do think you'll be very happy with them. Again, they're not the cheapest machines you'll buy, but you do get what you pay for. He does put his heart and soul into these machines, and the quality is really, really nice. I think you'd definitely be happy having any one of his machines. And so far, everyone I've talked to, including his own forums, people, when they receive them, post how amazed they are and how great they are. So do, if you have a chance, have a look at the Old Made New forum. If you need some decals for your little machines, check out Matt, I'll link down below, and he does really nice labels for the machines. And I really want to again thank Neil for taking some time with me today and giving me this interview that I could share with all of you. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I know it was a long video, but there was really a lot crammed in here. And I'll say it one more time. I really do love my little Asteroids machine. It's a great piece of work. And again, everyone, thank you for watching. If you did like the video, please do like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends. And remember, no matter what, game on.
operation, and pretty much everything I do on those things, it's precision. You know, to make the holes for the, you know, the buttons on the very front. I mean, they got to line up perfectly. The joystick center.
Right.
Center of that joystick, right in the center of that little thing. That's precision. And I don't think I would take anyone else's work over mine, because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and that's good for the buyer, because I want it to be perfect too for that much money.
Run, run, run.